And so I had to kill the previous stream because I wasn't getting no video. Uniting the community. Which is really going to be the tough part of trying to get just the community on track, because the community be cracking me up. It's like, I know the high level community just said DOA never needed the FGC to get as big as it has. It never has. Because to be perfect, are actually owned a copy of a DOA game in their collection. So it's not about the FGC hating as a whole, dead or alive. It's just the vocal ones who play at a tournament level hate on the game, which is not a lot. I'm sorry, you knuckleheads who just play, you know, for the rep and fame and the FGC and play in the tournaments. You guys only make probably 25 to 30% of the majority of the people who buy these games, to be honest. You guys, as far as companies making money, it's like, as far as you guys representing the game at a good level to get people to buy it, yeah, you guys matter. I said, but as far as making money, yeah, if none of you guys bought the game, they would still make money. They would still profit. They would. It's like they don't need the high level community to sustain the games as far as making money. Because you got to remember, quite a few of these games came out on console, and that's how they really started making a chunk of money. He just tried to grab. The only way that DOA, for it to be a better game, is for the community to unite behind DOA as a whole. That means it's like, appreciate the series and game for what it is. Granted, there is going to be some bad DOA games. There are. Not every game could be a good game. It's like, it is what it is. That's just how it goes. And it's like, I have a love-hate relationship with 5. I thought 5 is an abomination. But you know what? I still bought and put hundreds of hours in Dead or Alive 5. It's like, yeah, I voiced my disagreements with the game, but I still supported the game. I still watched the live streams. I still watched the high-level tournament videos. I still supported the community. It's like I talked a whole bunch of shit about it, but, you know, I supported the game. There's only like, on the gameplay standpoint, I wasn't a big fan of the game, but everything else I was fine with. And I did have fun, and I did learn to play the game at a competent level. Okay, why did I get for so many fucking, oh, I got this set on Versus because my cousin was playing. Yeah, my cousin is nuts. He put this on 5 rounds. Oh, he is a nut job. He is. But I would say the one thing the high level community needs to do, which a lot of other fighting game communities, whether it's Capcom, NetherRealm, you know, Namco as far as in the Tekken and other games, the one thing that they did over time is just accept their community for what it is. Something the DOA community has not done ever since they realized they are a community. It's like, if I until like, ooh, what was it? I think when Dead or Alive Ultimate dropped, and then It was the first. It was officially the first 3D fighting game to play online. It's like Mortal Kombat. I don't count that, even though it did come out first. But as far as a pure, 3D fighting game, DOA was the first. And before that, there was a lot of you had DOA Central. I know they named the option on here called DO Central, but DOA Central was a website. It ended up being called Three Step Dodge. And basically, you had just a small community of high-level players who pretty much just communicated and trolled and talked shit to each other on their own little space of the internet. They were big fish in a small pond. They didn't know or realize that at the time that DOA as a whole had a big community, as big as they thought it was. They just thought, okay, we play the game at this level and we play amongst ourselves, we travel amongst ourselves. This is the only, DOA community we know. And, that was fine for what it is. But then in DOA Ultimate came out, they realized that, they are no longer the big fish in a small town. They're just fish in a big ocean of people who play and enjoy the Dead or Alive games. And many of these players were not as good, but they were just as competent. What you don't realize about the DOA games, it has always been a pick up and play game. So even if you're good, if you go against somebody who's intermediate or competent, there's a chance you're going to lose. There is a chance you could lose to somebody who may not be good as you, because the counter hold system and the game is so read and react based. It's based on momentum, and it's a mind game. So a person who may not be as technically as good as you are, knows the in and out of the character, maybe not as labbed as hard as you have, can still beat you if they already pick up on your patterns and stuff like that, or just have a good day countering. You could still lose. And so high-level players got butthurt at the DOA community as a whole. They started to get irate and started, demanding that these players go to offline events and that their online wins against them didn't count. And they're using cheesy tactics. Basically just coming off heck assault. From these losses they got. And, which was fine. They were young. A lot of these high-level players were young back in the day. So it's understandable, being young, you talk all this shit back in, on your website, and then, you start to get a little hate, too, for being hecka good. You gotta put your money where your mouth is. So granted, these players, they did good online. They proved they're the cream of the crop. But they didn't realize that there are quite a few players they didn't know about who were just as good and better than they were. And so that opened up, the DOA community the high-level community was hella salty when they found out they weren't the biggest fish anymore. They treated the casual community, they treated anybody they felt that didn't fall into what they felt was high-level, pristine, DOA tournament, offline tournament play. They just totally disregarded them, as players, as people who were skilled enough at the game. Oh my god. Computer's good on level 8. Better than master difficulty. Give me that grab. I want that grab. Hella late. a lot. Good thing is, but you gonna not have a bar that won't side step no more. Got him. But saw that coming. But yeah, the community came in hecka salty. And that they automatically drew a line in the sand as far as how they were going to treat the rest of the DOA community as a whole. It's like you couldn't come into DOA Central unless you were humble and kiss their ass. But that was a lot of fighting game communities back then. That was a lot. It was like Capcom was like that, Tecmo was like that. You know, you had to come in there. You know, you can't go in there being a shit talker. You couldn't. You know, it's put up or shut up. FGC is a put up or shut up community, which is fine. I perfectly accept that. But for the people, but the online play when it dropped, it actually allowed players to say, it's like, well, I'm putting up, but you know, all you high level players are not shedding up. You still decide to talk, and it just already drew a line, especially with the DOA community, that they still haven't recovered from, because they were such dicks back in the day. They were. I think they'll be the first to tell you that they were such dicks. But I think a lot of high-level players were in the early 2000s. They already had a us versus them, because as a high-level player, you're gonna get hate, you know, from normies and from casual players who talk shit and they don't realize what they're going up against from people who play the game religiously and are passionate about it. So yeah, I can see that, because I don't consider myself like a really good player, but I play at a decent enough level to where I have gotten hate from normies and casuals who don't play the games as well as I do. Get ready. So yeah, that huge divide was all in a lot of fighting games. I can't just put that on the DOA community, but the problem with the DOA community is they embraced it, because they also talked hella shit amongst themselves as each other. It was just a shit talking community. I mean, it's like, I thought the Street Fighter community was bad, or Tekken was bad, but no, DOA has little man syndrome. See, it's bad when you're a shit talking community, but then you have little man syndrome about your game. So it's like you just alienate everyone. You alienate not only other fans in the community, you alienate even your peers in the community, other players in the community. And I think the only time the DOA community for high-level players ever united was based on how they wanted the game to play, or when Team Ninja wanted feedback on, you know, character adjustments or how the game plays. That's the only time, you know, they really kind of united. But other than that, they treated each other. Everybody was a rival in that community. Everybody was a threat. It wasn't until DOA 5, you know, they're a little older, they're a little wiser. You know, a lot of them were getting into their 30s, late 20s. You know, they were getting into their lives, you know, that they started to realize, you know, all that childish, you know, bullshit that we had back then doesn't matter anymore. We're just happy to have a game out, you know, because there was like, what, a 7-year gap between Dead or Alive 4 and Dead or Alive 5. So they were just happy to get a new game, because they thought the game was buried at that point. So all of them united, they started playing the game, they went to tourneys, and then DOA 5 dropped. You also got a lot of young players, a lot of unknown players coming in playing the game, and introduced Sonic's Fox to the FGC. And I think that's what really came out of the Dead or Alive 5 era, was really Sonic Fox, because he made his name playing Dead or Alive before he got into NetherRealm games and stuff like that. You know, that young prodigy. came into the scene, and just him and Excalibur Blades, you know, at what, 14, 15 years old, just demolishing a lot of the OGs and top players. And, you know, the OGs start to realize, like, fuck, we're getting old, we're not as good as we are, but also realize that DOA is a whole different game. Because you don't see a lot of these younger players play the old games and play as well. Because a lot of the newer games have a whole bunch of mechanics and bullshit that rewards you for pushing buttons. I'm gonna lie, there is so much. That's my issue with Dead or Alive 5. DOA was always an anti-just push buttons fighting game because of the counter system. It is like from the, well, they kind of nerfed it in Dead or Alive 3, but the mechanics were still good enough to where you didn't have to rely on counters. But people still did not like getting countered, even in Dead or Alive 3. Got it. God, she just kicked my face off. And I think the doctor realized the reason he made the changes in 4 was because Dead or Alive 3 kind of plays slower than 4 though. It's like Dead or Alive 3 is a slog, I'm not gonna lie. It's still fun to play. It's still one of the best graphically good-looking Dead or Alive games. Actually, this is an Xbox game. Even to this day, it looks really good, even on the ATCG. There you go. You can beat it if you got it.
Get ready. Fight.
She does that shit, but the computer mixes it up so well. Sometimes you don't know what's coming. He just going down. Oh, block it. That was coming. Yeah,
pretty much what I expected.
It's like the community has always been factored with the DOA community, but it really didn't get factored until I first started seeing hints of it when Dead or Alive, the first Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball came out. Because even on Dead or Alive Central back then, there were people already were hating on the game. There's like quite a few were vocal about the high level players. They were like, oh my god, you know, because there were normies. There were normies who are not really gamers who play DOA. So you're gonna have that typical, you know, oh my god, I can't believe you're playing this game with just, you know, these fake chicks in bikinis. You're getting all sweaty and hot and bothered over it. You know, you're gonna get all that kind of gaslighting, you know, arguing or whatever to piss you off. But it's like, I always tell them like, well shit, you know, what's your problem? It's like, well, what does it say about you? Since you play, you always pick Ryu Hayabusa, but you always pick them topless in just the pants. Well, that's it about you. It's like, so you're gonna have, you know, those players, you know, who just like certain characters in fighting games because they're cool, not because it's sexy. So you had the cool versus sexy. They're like, oh, it's manly, it's cool. But then you got players, you know, sort of like me, where it's like I'll pick a female character because she's hot, you know, because I like how she looks graphically. It's like how they look, you know, comes first, and then how they play comes second. And that's what many people when it comes to playing fighting games anyway. But, you know, you're going to get those bullshit arguments from people, but when you get so many in the high-level community and vocal, you know, about them being just anti-sexy, you know, they don't like anything sexy, you know, they feel perverted. It's like, well, why are you playing this game then? Why are you playing this game if you find that part of the game so offensive? It's like, don't you realize without that aspect of the game, DOA wouldn't be what it is. It wouldn't be any more DOA games, to be honest. You know, because if you just treated the game, if it was just a bunch of male characters, you know, dishing it out, and the game was being played, I guarantee you, people still wouldn't play this game. Because just the mechanics rub people the wrong way. You can't, it's like, DOA is so mind game and execution heavy that it's like you can't tease the game. And we know how American players like to tease their game. DOA is basically Virtual Fighter with counter holds. And it's like they won't even play Virtual Fighter, which is a superior game. So that ought to tell you that if they don't play Virtual Fighter, they are sure as hell is not going to play Dead or Alive. It's like Virtual Fighter no longer gets made. DOA outlasted Virtual Fighter, and that is pretty much the grandfather, the originator of 3D fighting games. Virtual Fighter is in the Smithsonian Museum because it's considered not only an artistic but a technological, you know, contributor to society and to art as a whole. So it's like Virtual Fighter has historical significance, yet Sega's no longer making that game. DOA outlasted Virtual Fighter. So that ought to tell you something. And you want to know why it outlasted Virtual Fighter? Tits and ass and high production values. That's it. That's why it has outsold and remained relevant and the games keep getting made. It's tits and ass and high production values. That's it. I'm sorry, as much as, you know, the people who love the gameplay will champion the gameplay, I'm sorry. It's not the gameplay. The gameplay keeps you coming back for more. But it's the visuals, the graphics, the production values, the swagger, the music, the style of the game. DOA has set the benchmark, like graphically, for the 3D fighting games as a whole. It's like Tekken has always been Tekken, but DOA from the jump was already a better looking game. If you compare the first DOA game to the first Tekken game, the first DOA game is a much better looking game. I'm not gonna lie. And DOA has always set the standards in terms of environments and stuff like that. It's like, it just set the standard. So it's like, you know, DOA has outlasted DF because, you know, tits and ass production values, it just set the standards for what 3D fighter games are now. Like Soul Calibur, you know, it did look good in the first drop, I will admit that. But it really didn't really hit really good looking game until after DOA pretty much established, like, okay, we got to get this look. We got to have our female characters be visually, you know, stunning. And Soul Calibur does that. And Soul Calibur has just as much boob physics as DOA does. But you don't see Soul Calibur, you know, having them censor, you know, how the game is played on screen, which kind of pissed me off as I wanted to start this conversation. Was I was watching Biffy Techie's stream of what was it? It's Winter Brawl 3D, when they play mostly 3D games, and they had a DOA6 tournament. But I noticed some people been turning off the boob physics playing those games, especially if they still like the top 8 matches. They turn off the boob physics, and I'm like, why? Why are you gonna do that? And yet you still have people picking the girls in the most skimpy outfits on the street. And so I commented that in the comments, and I got reactions from people basically saying, it's like, well, most people want to focus on the fighting and not on the titties. It was like, well, why are you playing this game in the first place? I said, people who pick the female characters in Soul Calibur don't get distracted by titties. I said, all the female characters in Tekken got boob physics, and it's like, they don't get distracted. I said, you can put them in tighter clothes and, you know, whatever. It's like, why are you going to censor that when these other games are not being censored? Like, what? Are they going to stop censoring fatalities in Mortal Kombat? It's like, yeah, I noticed in some games they don't do the fatalities when they win, and that'll be a community's choice. You know, that's fine. It's like, I don't expect every time for them to do fatalities because they're so busy trying to win the game. I said, but I think, at some tournaments they were like, yeah, just do it just to do it, you know, for the crowd or whatever. But I'm like, with DOA, it's like the fan base is almost it's on life support right now. It's on life support because of this infighting in the community, the bullshit, the horrible launch marketing of the game. People. What is that?
It's over. Get ready. Fight!
Yeah, I'm focusing on this fight. This fight over, I'll get back to talking today. Hayabusa. Most annoying and probably the best character in this game.
Get ready. Fight!
Oh, I forgot. Notification on that one. Oh, I caught him. Got him. But yeah, the community is torn.
Yeah, pretty much
I
what
think
expected.
I also have to go after the casual community because the casual community does not speak enough. The only time the casual community ever speaks up is when shit like this happens, like with the whole the hair color bullshit. This is the only time where the DOA community seems united as a whole. But because that hair color bullshit was, it's pretty shiesty. And but yeah, this is the only time they bitch and complain is when it comes to something cosmetic with the game or certain characters are not in the game. Is when the casual community will decide to speak up. As far as the gameplay itself, they don't really care. As long as their favorite characters in the game and the game still plays how it's supposed to play, then the casual community is pretty much fine with the game as is. You know, they don't speak up a lot. Cause I know with me, it's like, I would say the gameplay to me, I care about it. I'm not anal retentive about it as long as the core point of the gameplay still exists, which is the rock, paper, scissors core structure. If DOA goes from that, then I pretty much bitch. And I bitched a lot when it came to Dead or Alive 5, so Critical Burst killed that whole gameplay structure. It did. Dead or Alive turned into Punisher died. It played like Virtual Fighter with counter hold. It didn't play like DOA. It's like I could pop it in right now and you'll definitely see a different way I approach that than when I play this. Even though I still play them kind of the same. But with this one, I don't have to worry about critical bursting people or doing an extra move to make sure you know my next attack is guaranteed and won't get countered. So critical burst did. And that's what pissed me off. Because it didn't stop people from just murdering you. It was like, that's what DOA always did. It didn't give anybody who had an advantage to keep advantage. There was always a way out. And I know that pissed off offensive people who like combos, like tournament high level people, but that's a part of the game. It's like, and plus you can use the stun system and counter system to beat your opponent even worse, which is how I play it, because I know a lot of people try to counter their way out of shit, I would use that up to set up my offense, my mix-up, my throws. I would use the stun system to win, which quite a few players do, especially in this game. They brought that back. Dead or Alive 5 had a heavy stun system, but nobody was afraid of just going in after they stun you. They were not afraid of you countering, because they knew you'll either counter it and only get like maybe 10 to 50% jam unless you get like an offensive hold to counter. It's like you can take that small hit of getting countered, or you can keep on with this stun damage and kill this person's like half their life bar in one combo, especially if it's against the wall. Always does good. He didn't go for it.
Get ready. Fight!
I think that hits up mid, that uppercut. Like that. Oh, he countered my person. When that move, he screwed a lot more damage.
Yeah, pretty much what I expected.
But yeah, the casual community uses pick up more just to keep the high level community in check. It will keep both sides vocal on equal footing to where one side doesn't get heard more than the other. But like I said, the casual community, they don't have much to complain about. It's like, as far as, you know, the casual side of just the game coming out, you know, I get my DOA girls, and I get my dudes, I get a graphically really good looking game, I get plenty of fan service, the gameplay is solid, you know, and stuff like that. There's not much to complain about. It's just about whether you're going to change the core identity of the game, which will piss them off. And it's funny because you got all these people complaining about the fan service, but you don't see the casuals be like, whatever. It's like, I spend my time trying to defend it, but most people, they don't. They just think like, yeah, it's still, no matter how much you bitch and complain, it's like Pets won't know what kind of game they got. They know who's making this game to for the money. It's us. It's like, we're the majority of the fan base, we're the majority of the players. So it's like, no matter how much people bitch and moan, you know, the casual fans are gonna make this company money. I think anybody can break my winning streak, it's Lisa. Donkey kick. Yeah, the confusing thing about Lisa is, like, you don't want her to go in the range and just get a lot of her 50-50 attacks. Oh, she perfectly timed that one. Because it's not her close range attacks that fuck you up. It's her attacks with range that really jack you up with Lisa. Oh my god, bitch. Oh. Oh wow, she just hit me out of there. Yeah, the computer knows what buttons I'm pushing at this point. The computer's taking all the right guesses. Ah, there's no throw coming in. That's her most high damage throw. Look at that. Damn it. Oh, I'm not dead. Ah, she got me. Killed my winning streak. But yeah, I knew she would probably do it. This is so annoying to do it. But yeah, the community as a whole has to come together, so a lot of this bullshit going on right now. But I think the people who are most vocal about the anti-sexy, I think they need to get purged out the community. Or those members just have to have a different type of perspective and realize that they're hurting. They're hurting the community. They're hurting the image of the game by complaining about it. When you question the identity of a game, you're destroying. You're hurting the game as a whole. It's like, yeah, you consider it a hindrance, but to be honest, it's not. Once you figure what makes the game look bad, you know, with the FGC, it's like, screw the FGC. The FGC is like, DOA is always going to have a place in the FGC no matter what. No matter what you think, or, you know, no matter how they think they feel. You know, they can get on it for being, you know, anime, you know, being a titty fighter or whatever. But at the end of the day, Dead or Alive has already staked its claim in the lexicon of fighting game history. That is never going to go away. It's like, even if they stop making games, DOA will always be remembered. Its community will always play the games. Remember, Dead or Alive 4 was played for like a good 7 years. Dead or Alive 5 lasted a good,
All right. I will
6 years? Yeah, a good 6 years, a good 6-year run.
I hope to receive some new data from you.
This is my first time using this shit. Yeah, that I tell you. That's why I put on the easier difficulty. I don't know what I'm doing. I just know when the game first dropped, she was rusty. And then it took her like 3 or 4 patches to surface to where everybody and their mama were naming her at tournaments. Yeah, people still name her at tournaments. She's that good. After she's out, I'm just pushing buttons and doing shit. And I'm not even using her optimal shit either. He is so confused.
You cannot escape.
I remember that had a elongated stun that allowed you to just beat the shit out of people, but they got rid of it. What I also like about Dead or Alive 6 is basically they brought back the importance of juggle combos. Because, you know, you just abuse the stun game. Both of them are awesome. I'm gonna get rid of both of them. To my last part. was weird. Yeah, DOA as a community, it needs to have an identity. It needs to just accept game. Let me get the volleyball, Marie. Jesus. She was adamant about me not getting that volleyball. Fight back. That basic double combo was heckin' damage. I figured out what the taunt button is. Had this game for almost a year. Never knew how to taunt. It's like I thought they got rid of the taunt. Maybe you assuming. I think this is still point based. I know in DOA6 it was harder because the stipulation for making the list on there was you had to reach a point goal. Her like a salad. It's like as far as what I want from the DOA series, I just wanted to stick to have core values and identity. It needs to bring Itagaki back. It does. That's what I think they should do. They should somehow kiss and make up, bring him back. Maybe not as a game director, but probably as a, oh my god. Yeah, she got me. But maybe as a, you know, an advisor,
Pretty much what I expected.
you know, on the game. So that way they can just have some voice of the creator saying, okay, this is what's successful, this is what DOA is, this is the core of the characters, because they kind of fell off track. They fell off. They fell off hard. I would have to say the story mode part of this game is so ass backwards. Oh yeah, it's so bad. It's bad and disjointed. You know, adding characters like Honoka and Marie Rose, I feel throwing the series off. They put more cutes into the series. It's troll culture. I think it's also, you know, it's a Japanese company, Japanese game. They're gonna appeal to their market first before they try to appeal here. which is understandable. I can't hate on that. You know, it is what it is. But Itagaki, he had, you know, he was a bridge between East and West developer. He had Western sensibilities, but Eastern aesthetic as far as visually his games. But as far as, you know, the core of the game was very Western. You know, he would have like Aerosmith work on, you know, songs in his games, and you know, the whole high risk, high reward gambling aspect of the counter system. You know, that's gambling. And you have the thing with the hot women and the sex, you know, the sexiness. You know, that's more appealing to Western audience. You have ninjas, you know, both Eastern and Western, especially here in the West. We really have a thing for ninjas. We do. I grew up in the age where I was past the, you know, I kind of grew up in the age where, you know, as a black person in black culture, you know, we were really into martial arts movies. You know, Bruce Lee, and, you know, when he made his mark in the 70s and early 80s. But then I grew up, you know, during the time where ninjas were popping up. We had American Ninja in these movies, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. So ninjas became very popular, and they never died, you know. Well, let's see what kind of outfits I got. Let's play dress up. I want to unlock these outfits, but for some reason they take forever to unlock. But I haven't been playing Honoka as much as I used to. The thing that pissed me off is Team Ninja is smart in how they concocted the outfits. They have you get unlock all the cheaper outfits first, and the outfits you want, you have to unlock last. They're trying to force you to put in a lot of time in the game. And then you gotta buy these tickets to get these DOA outfits, which is annoying in and of itself. I remember this was like one of the most popular outfits in Dead or Alive 5. The top was a lot more smaller than that, and I remember it was like a bikini top that showed a lot more skin. They gave it the booty shorts. See, a lot of people have been using this outfit when on DOA streams. It's funny because they just took out the boob physics. So you got the outfits, but the boobs don't move. Why? Because esports. We can't have that on esports, man. We don't want to scare people. We don't want to hurt all these Twitter puritans' feelings who don't even buy the game. We want to appear inclusive so everybody cannot be offended. We want more people to buy the game so we can keep buying the game. It's like, dude, just buy the game. Why don't you try to sell people on the game who are into this shit? But no, they don't want that. You know, like I said, because many of them are normal. They're normal people. And the thing about normies is they don't like anything too extreme. They don't like anything that has extreme violence. And they don't like things to be too sexy, because they want to show it to their normal friends. So it's like I'm trying to sell you this game, man. Look, it's like, but the thing is, these normies, they know the game's content, you know, will rub people the wrong way. Yet they still try to sell people in this game, saying, "Oh, look at the gameplay. The gameplay is good. I want you to enjoy the gameplay." But visually, people are not going to get past this. They're not going to get past anime titties. They're not. This is America. It's like, it's a Puritan-based society. People are always going to have issues with this. They are. Look at that. That's just what it is. It's like, I am not going to sell this game to people who I know are going to have problems with it. That's me. I know that. I had a cousin one day who got hella cringy when I was playing Senran Kagura in my room. He was like, "What the fuck is this game?" I said, "You want to play it?" He's like, "Nah, dude." He just had this look of disgust on his face. He was so cringed out. And I thought it was funny. I still talk to him about that to this day. I was like, "I've never seen you cringe over anything." It's like, you know, yet that fool, you know, does all kind of freaky crap with like real women. But yet he gets cringy and slightly offended over seeing fake women. Maybe he's getting creeped out because to some people this aesthetic is kind of creepy, you know, which is fine. But you know, the fact that you can talk about, you know, and comfort, and you're proud of the fact that you bury your face in some girl's funky ass, yet you get cringy over this. It is what it is. Like I said, he's an alpha, you know. Like if they didn't look like this, they look more Western and kind of slightly more realistic, it probably wouldn't bother him as much. Because I could pop in Tekken, he'll be perfectly fine with that. You know, or the girls in Soul Calibur to a certain extent looking hot and sexy, but you know, I pop in Senran Kagura, oh my god, he get caught up in his feelings, he gets the cringe, he get hella cringed. And I just find that shit funny, but they won't let me unlock these costumes. I have to play with Honoka a lot to get those outfits. Did I get another Lei Fang costume? This is my main character, but I don't like how she plays in this game. I don't. She's fine for what she is, but I don't like how she plays. She plays totally different than, you know, how I like to play her. And if you're not playing a character how to their strengths at a high level, you're gonna get murdered. So if I'm not playing Lei Fang like the high levels are playing her, I'm gonna get my ass kicked. Pretty much. Just like I can hold my own against intermediate people, you know, to beginners and scrubs. But against really good players, oh no, I'm gonna get mollywopped. I'm gonna get handled thoroughly. Hey, what's that Chinese dress? Oh, they give her a red one? I know they gave what's her name the green one. But I guess since she's Chinese, they have to keep her with the red colors. Let's see, how much is it? Oh, I don't have the update, so I can't buy it. I need to get that update, y'all. But, overall, we just need to get our shit together. The DOA community, the company need to get their shit together. But I think the company right now, they're out of options because they realize the community is full of shit. And all they look at right now is how much money that they can make. Man, the textures on Momiji is just horrible. She looks like one of those shoujo dolls, statues. There is no fucking like skin texturing on her skin. That's why I say Dead or Alive 5 was a better looking game. Because at least you had really good skin texture. She don't have no skin texture at all. None. I hadn't even used Momiji yet. She did have one costume I wanted that was looking hella good. Let's see. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. This one's a really good costume. I like this costume. And did they give her a pink? Yeah, pink dress. Ponytail, long, okay, let her hair long. Okay, what's the difference between this ponytail and this ponytail? They changed the bangs? I don't see any difference. Is one longer than the other? I don't see any difference, really. And it brought back to Bob. She's a Shinto priestess. Here's Rachel. I remember she's the recent one that came out, but I remember players were calling out for her release, like, I think before Kula came out. I would have enjoyed it if they would have had fucking Phase 4 and Mai on disc. At least should have had them on disc. Oh my god, it's like you had to buy Mai all over again as DLC. I guess they figured, well, we got the license from SNK, and it costs us money, so we're gonna charge people for, you know, just like they did with Dead or Alive 5 and Phase 4. I don't even know why they got a Phase 4. But, you know, I know they had it like the whole storyline with Kasumi stemming from, I believe DOA2 was the whole clones, and they made clones of her. So Phase 4 is one of those, what could you say, sentient clones, have a mind of our own. And I think out of all the people that Ayane should kill is basically Phase 4. I think that was a way for Kasumi to get out of, like, not having Ayane trying to kill her, is by Ayane killing Phase 4, saying, oh, I killed Kasumi, and Ayane stops pursuing frickin'. Why don't they do that? Just to appease the village. But Hayate runs the village. He could just eliminate the kill order. But, you know, it's a whole cultural thing within the village to kill deserters, so people won't be aware that their tribe exists. You know, it's just their code. Which is understandable, but there's so many holes in the stories that it just doesn't make sense. What time is it? It's 8:20, my internet is working, but at this point I am pretty much bored with this game. I'm ready to pop in another game because it stresses me out. Just the community, you know, how rushed, poorly marketed this game was when it got released. It's just depressing. So I thought Dead or Alive 5 was the most polarizing game of the DOA series, but it's DOA6 at this point, because at its core of the gameplay is decent. It's a fun game to play. It got enough characters for everybody. Aesthetically, it looks nice, but it's not what the community overall was expecting. You know, it came in unfinished. It got released unfinished. It had bad marketing, and it only sold like 250,000 copies. For a game this well known and this notorious, that does not cut it. I think this game was made on a strict budget. Because it was made on that budget, you know, I'm sure the cost wasn't too high to make it, which is why they did. It was funny because a lot of people thought Dead or Alive was done after DOA 5 was like, okay, we're done. The director was like, okay, I'm done. The community manager at a tournament was like, hey, thanks for like 5 or 6 years of me going to these tournaments and, you know, being with you guys, getting to know you guys. So they were acting like DOA as a series was done. But no, it was like not too soon after they announced that there was a trailer of Kasumi running through a forest with Hayate, and it was like, oh my god, Dead or Alive 6, you know. Everybody was like, what? Getting all hyped, and then the fighting game community kind of had a loud groan. They were like, I thought we were finally done. It was like the only time the FGC kind of cared about DOA is when they kind of felt it was no longer being made. And it's like I told people, it's like the majority of the FGC does not hate Dead or Alive. It's like only the vocal idiot ones, the same type of ones who are in the DOA community who hates on the titties and ass, are the same type of people in the FGC who hates titties and ass. If you hate titties and ass, they're going to be vocal anyway. They're going to have something to say negative about DOA because they just don't like titties and ass. And a ton of them, they're just not good at DOA. DOA is a thinking man's fighting game. It's a shenanigans fighting game. It's the ultimate bullshit fighting game. That's what DOA is. You have to outthink your opponent more so than outplay your opponent. Granted, you can still outplay your opponent, but you can still lose to somebody who will outthink you in Dead or Alive. And for people who are used to playing Tekken or Soul Calibur or Street Fighter, where a lot of things that you do, 2 plus 2 equals 4, regardless of what my opponent does. If I do this and I do this, I should be able to get this. That does not always happen with DOA. It's like you can do 2 things right, and then your next attack could fuck up. Somebody will counter it. Or you have something planned and somebody hits you out of that attack. And it's like, they finally got a decent sidestep system in DOA games. Recently. So it's like, they're trying to get the defensive options just as good as the offensive options. And I feel this game is very, very well balanced. More balanced than any DOA game I played in years. Because you can take any character and you can squash people if you're good enough. And vice versa. Even if you use like a top tier character, you can still squash and and get squashed. You can use like one dude in Asia who's been winning tournaments with Marie Rose. Here, she's considered low tier by many in the community. But overseas, there's one dude just beating the shit out of people with her. I don't see too many Lisa players. A lot of people are trying to do don't be afraid to put them in the lab, give them a shot. Just do what I do, put them through the ringer, or put myself in the ringer and just get my face punched in until I learn how to play a character. But all in all, the community needs to get together. And if we have an issue with Tecmo Koei, then just don't buy the product. Tell them about it. I'm sure if you don't get enough of complaints, they'll listen. But the best thing you can do is basically let them know what's your wallet. Don't buy the product. And to be honest, I'll be perfectly happy if the DOA series after 6 just dies. I'll be content, because we had really great games in the past, and I own all the games, so I would be content. It would not bother me if the series were to end. I would be thanks for the fun times. It was great. It got me into the FGC, pretty much, as far as learning about FGC culture, meeting other players, and my DOA experience branched off into other games: Street Fighter, Soul Calibur, Tekken, and stuff like that. But if this means like after this point, Team Ninja, Tecmo's like, you know what, this game bomb, nobody is supporting it, financially, the money, to the point that fuck it, they're not going to make any more games, I would be fine with that. I'd be like, okay, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to pay attention to the bunch of cucks in the community. I would be perfectly fine, because that's who's in the community right now. A bunch of very vocal cucks and Twitter puritans are in the DOA community. Yeah, that's a fucked up thing to say, but it is what it is. Because there's just so much bullshit. Granted, I'm old, so it's like, my patience for bullshit is pretty darn thin. But overall, yeah, this series dying a slow death would not ruin my day. Why'd it have theater or a database, yet you can't watch any of the freaking video footage? Oh, it's a library. Yeah, they use a DOA encyclopedia, but they don't have no videos or nothing. You're paying for it with zero freaking money just to read shit. I would have been happy if you could just watch the cinematics from the story mode. But no, you gotta play through that story mode just to see the cinematics again. Sometimes I just want to watch the cinematics. I don't really care about going through that shit again. But yeah, this game probably taken up, I think, 80 gigs of my hard drive or more because of all the freaking updates. Like I said, it's gaming as a service. It's a game as a service. Now you're paying $60 for bare bones games, you know, bare bones games at purchase, and then they build on it over time. Put a bunch of microtransactions to get you to spend more money. It's funny because I got an issue with Game Informer when they called this out when they were talking about DLC. One of their biggest fears, the company would pick up and say, okay, what's to stop them from releasing a half-assed game and then charge you over time to complete it. But DOA6, man, the drama, it's dumb, it's childish, but it's understandable. It's like, I get it. But some things need to change, and I think it needs to get changed from within. The community has to change. The community just has to accept the game, warts and all. It has to. It has to stop hating itself. It has to stop hating the game. The community needs to be more shameless about this game. That's one thing the Smash community has. That community is shameless. The Smash community does not give a fuck what you think of Smash, because they got a bunch of players, some of them with deep pockets, and they have pretty much financially bought themselves into relevancy in the FGC with sheer numbers and money. That's how the game got into Evo. It was a donation drive back in 2013. It was Smash, it was, I think, the My Little Pony game, which wasn't even finished, Dead or Alive, and I think a few other games. They're like, Mr. Wizard was like, whoever donates the most will get a spot at Evo. And I think DOA on that list came up in 4th place. And Smash won by a landslide. I think they raised like 10 grand. I think DOA raised at least 5 grand. But Smash blew it. I think it was like $10,000 to $13,000. And that's how Smash Brothers got into Evo and has been a mainstay at Evo since 2013. It's because they pretty much donated money to a donation drive. And once, you know, Mr. Wizard saw the numbers that these people were bringing in, when you're getting at least 900 to 1,300 people just paying in for a tournament, it's like money talks, bullshit walks. And Evo is all about the money at the end of the day. The money and core values. And it's like, I think it's like they gave DOA a chance. But once they had that exhibition in Japan, and I'll never forget the look on Markman's and Tasty Steve's face, their reaction. I think I put Markman on blast in the comments somewhere where he was posting. I was like, Markman, I always respected you, bro. I said, but the look of disgust on your face during that freaking DOI live stream, you and Tasty Steve. And it's like, if I go back and watch like old school like DOA footage, like, well, fighting FGC footage of just these two fools acting like knuckleheads and being profane and saying some sexual fucked up shit, and then they go act like what they just saw was the skankiest and dirtiest shit on the planet. I said, man, that was the most hypocritical thing I've ever seen you do in your life. I said, I know that you're there for a paycheck. You got to support the brand. I said, but don't be a fucking corporate shill. You know, I said, we are all FGC. And when you, it's like, I would have been fine if you just would have laughed. It was like, well, that's DOA. You know, I would have been fine with that. But the look of sheer disgust and annoyance on his face is what rubbed me the wrong way. So after that point, I was like, I completely disregarded Evo. I don't care about Evo anymore. Matter of fact, it's been boring ever since L.I. Joe's, you know, run through Street Fighter V. I think, was it 2016, 2017? I think it was 2016. And I just didn't care. It's like a lot of the games they pick, I really don't care to follow. The tournament's not as hype. No, actually, no. When Little Majin, his run was good. His little run, I think that was what, 27 name, who won Guilty Gear. Yeah, a lot of black players had a great Evo that year. I remember I pissed off one dude in one fighting game board when I mentioned that, when I brought that up. He's like, what does race have to do with anything? I said, look, man. I said, what, you're Middle Eastern? I said, if it was a bunch of Middle Eastern players who placed high or won major games, you would have noticed it too. He's like, that shouldn't matter. I said, but it does matter. I said, we're in the era where it's all about representation and inclusivity. I said, but the fact that, you know, a lot of black players that year, you know, placed high or actually won in their respective games, you know, was like, wow, never seen that before at Evo. It's either mostly Asian people, mostly, you know, from Japan or America, who usually dominates those spots. So it's rare to see that. But you know, when it comes to DOA, most majority of the fan base don't care about the FGC. Most of the casuals, they don't want to be a part of the FGC. They don't consider themselves, you know, really want to be a part of a community who really don't like their game in the first place. And it's been that way ever since, you know, the FGC has been known. And I think the FGC, you know, as a whole kind of admired DOA because during, I guess what they call, if you're a Capcom fan, if you're a Capcom fighting game player, you consider the early 2000s like the dark ages of fighting games. But to be honest, there were fighting games being made during that time that were actually pretty good, and there were some that sucked during that time. And I would say out of that time, Dead or Alive 4 was released in 05 on the 360. It got pushed to the top of the esports, you know, mountain. It was a part of the World Cyber Games. It mainstayed Evo. It was on MLG. It was on Competitive Gamer League. They even had reality TV shows where they had a couple of people who were known for DOA play DOA. And, you know, you had Virtua Fighter 5. So there were fighting games being played just because, you know, Street Fighter wasn't the main game. You know, people were like, oh, yeah, it's Dark Ages. But no, there were games being played. Evo was still going on. It's like, yeah, most of the games were 2D and Street Fighter based. Evo is a 2D fighting, you know, has a 2D fighting bias. You know, that's how their roots are. They were rooted in 2D fighting games. And it's like, at the end of the day, you have to have big numbers. I guarantee you, if the DOA community showed up to all the major tournaments at least 500 to 1,000 deep as far as entrants and rep the game, Evo couldn't ignore them. Evo would not ignore them because that's money. The core values, bullshit, all that stuff would not matter if DOA is bringing in like 500 to 1,000 entrants in their game at every major tournament. But no, we barely get 30 to 50 people showing up for tournaments. Major tournaments at that. So it's like, if you're not bringing in big money, then you're gonna get ignored. It's like that's just how it is. It's like Evo would rather get Under Night and Rebirth, who probably brings in between maybe 70 to 300 you know, people coming in, than, you know, potentially DOA, which will probably only bring in like 50 to 30 to 50 people that will travel, who will go to that event, who will go to Evo and, you know, play on the main stage. So it's like the money is just not in the DOA community right now. You know, the casual fan base is not watching the streams like a lot, you know, not a lot of them are. Because it's like, to be honest, like I told some people, I said the fucking some of the announce teams are boring. It's like they're so into the technical aspects of the game that there is no color commentary. It's like we don't. It's like I like that one girl when she was announcing DOA. She had like blue hair, kind of thick. She also did Soul Calibur announcer. She provided a lot of color commentary, which balanced out a lot of the technical mumbo jumbo that most of the DOA announcers like to talk about. It's like, I know I sound like a hater, and it's like I'm cool with Emery Reigns. I like him. He's cool and all, but I even told him, it's like, I said, you guys need to mix in some color commentary. I said, I remember one time I gave a very scathing critique in the comment section of MKX tournament about Katana Prime's announcing, and he actually took it to heart, because he did change his announcing style. Because I told him straight up, it's like, you know, like, it's cool and all. I said, but I said, you're losing people, you're losing viewers, as all you talk about is frame data and what a player cannot do, you know, and all that other shit. And I said, it's boring. The announcing is boring. It's not engaging. It's like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know how the person got his ass kicked all the time. I want you to get hyped on how the person got his ass kicked. It's like you need one technical guy and you need one color commentator. So I reviewed Katana Prime about that. I put it in the comments section, and he said thanks for the feedback, and I'll keep that in mind. And ever since then, he changed up his but I think it wasn't just me. I can't say it was just me, because I heard other people had some of the issues with how he would announce, you know, fighting games as well. So I guess all the feedback he got, you know, he changed up his stuff. He'll still, you know, throw in his technical, you know, stuff about the game, but a good chunk of his stuff is more, you know, color commentary. He's a lot more exciting and engaging in his announcing, you know, since those changes. I think DOA, they need good announcers as well, because I'm not gonna lie, the announcing is too technical. It's too technical. It's like the guy, it's like I watched a recent tournament, like I said, the Winter Brawl 3D. You had Matt Ponton on there. You know, he's giving you, he just sounds very dry or whatever. Then the other guy, you know, he's like really into it. He's trying to, you know, hype up the game, you know, saying, ooh, and then he, you know, he gets mad, and it's like, okay, Matt, explain to me, you know, what's going on. But, you know, the guy who was more excited had me more engaged than, you know, listening to Matt. You know, I think he went by Mr. Sora back in the day. He's the one who two-step dodge. How the company, I guess, treats the game as far as the direction the game will go, because it comes down to money. If we support the game by going to these events and supporting the game, you know, warts and all, anime titties and all, and accept it for as is, I think the company also needs to stop having an identity crisis with himself. The company needs to be all in. Well, Team Ninja does. I think the company is all in. Tecmo Koei is just people within the company are kind of ashamed of their own game. You know, Shimbori's like, I want to cut down on the anime titties. It's like, no, the game has been popular for anime titties for over 20 years. Why change it now? That's like Coke deciding not to be no longer be Coke or decide to be Sprite. It's like, no, you know, they'll make Sprite on the side. They'll make a Sprite derivative or something. They'll make a different version of Coke, but they will always have basic Coke. That's its brand identity. They're never going to go away from it. Even if you don't like cola, you know what the hell Coke is, or you know somebody who likes Coke. The same thing, DOA needs to have that dedication to its brand identity. It's like Team Ninja needs to realize, okay, we had a creator who made a TNA, he made an animated teddy fighting game, and it's been that way for over 25 years. We just need to stick with it, you know, keep the core of the game intact, you know, put a little bit extra into it, make the game better, make it smoother, up the graphics, you know, the gameplay. That's all you got to do. But when you start to eliminate or cut back on one or the other, that's when people are going to have issues with the game. But I've been talking about this for almost 2 hours, you know, in 2 different part streams. But for those who came and stuck through it, thanks for stopping by. I would say good night and God bless.